So you just need to decide on a color. Ruby one.
So we're borrowing Rodney's sister's car, little Q3. The question is, will these fit in here? What do you think? I don't know. Fit with room to spare.
We did it.
Always put your cart back. How many drives like this would you think we've had in the course of our relationship? More than responsible?
I feel like on an average at least once a month. But there were definitely some months where it was probably once a week. Alright guys, for today's build, it's going to be fairly simple. We just need a chop saw, our orbital sander, a router, which is optional. You can use the sander to soften those edges, but I just feel like the router makes it a lot faster and is a lot more efficient and accurate. You'll need a circular saw, a jigsaw to finish up those sharp edges, and then we'll use a drill with a drill bit on it larger than your jigsaw blade. That's what's going to start our pilot hole. And then of course, a speed square, a straight edge. I just used our 4-foot level, and you always need a tape measure and a pencil.
Look, he even, is that focused? He even mocked up the design in CAD. So talented.
So to get started, I did make a diagram of both the back and the seat rest, which we'll put on the screen here for you to screen capture if you want to use our measurements that we used. But the goal was basically a 2x12 by 8 foot long. And we're gonna basically just take that and cut it in half at the 4-foot mark. So you'll have a 4-foot section for your seat and a 4-foot section for your back. And the seat part is gonna basically have the seat, we're gonna notch in and cut off the excess. And then the back, we're gonna insert kind of a rectangular piece that this little intersection here will slide into to interlock to make our little Viking chair.
I brought both because I'm not convinced you're not going to tell me that this one's the teeny one later. So there's this one if you need it.
I need that one right now.
This one?
There's the basic shape for the base. This section here would be the seat. That center area is going to be our support. We're going to ignore that line because suddenly my brain told me 46 inches was 4 foot. That's 48 inches there. So we'll cut these little rectangles off of either side. That'll make that center support. And then this section will be the back. And that'll be the hole we cut out that the center support will slide into, which is 12 inches off the base. Ta-da! Seems like a good height.
Oh, I'm glad we did this width and not the 8-inch. The 10-inch.
Is it okay height though?
Yeah, I think so.
Huh?
I think so. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if this needs to be a little shorter.
Well, those are gonna get rounded off, remember?
No. It's good.
It's good? Alright. Oh, that's totally fine. I mean, I don't know if anybody's gonna be napping on this by any means, but...
Well, could you do it a different, position it a different way and have more of
But I think if we round this,
yeah.
you won't have the and then if we
Pressure point.
round over the edges there too.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I agree.
All right. Test fits. All right, so we cut originally from the top side here, and because a jigsaw never cuts a perfectly square edge, we ended up having to flip it over after the first test fit because the angles were going inward like this, unfortunately, because the blade was curved, which is pretty inevitable. But we flipped it over, we kind of recut it, which squared it up, which helped it fit a little bit. And this is about a 1/16 on either side, so about 1/8 of an inch larger all the way around than the center piece or the center support of the seat. So it already had a little bit of wiggle room, and then I'm sure we'll have some shrinkage as the board dries. The hole will be a little bit larger, so give us even a little bit more space to get it in and out.
So to give us our rounded edges, we're just using something we have readily available, this round sandpaper from the sander, and placing it at the corner, lining it all up. We're gonna trace it out. I'm so good at tracing. You won't even believe how good at tracing I am. And then we'll cut that out with the jigsaw and then round out that edge with the router. And then repeat at the tops and bottoms. So rounding out these corners, especially on the seat, makes it a little bit more comfortable on the legs so that you don't have sharp corner edges pushing into those pressure points.
Jesus, jigsaw is my #1 tool to hate. Like you can't live without it, but you can barely work with it.
Well, if we had a CNC.
I mean, the whole goal with this chair thing though is literally to make this be like a hammer and chisel, like a Viking chair.
Do you think the Vikings went to Lowe's to get 2x12s? Are these 2x10s or 12s?
12. Oh, where'd my bucket go? Alright, so now we trace. Alright, so now that we've got the first one cut and ready, and we've got the edges done, before we use the router, which will really change the shape of the edge, we're going to use these two as a template to trace on the other three, so we can make all of our cuts and then do all of our routing and sanding at the same time. Use this side, I guess. Here.
Oh, you know what we should have done? We should have tested this curve before we cut them all
Try it right now.
to make sure that like.
Is that better though?
Yeah.
And now, one of the big benefits of building a chair like this is that they're not designed to be perfect. They don't need to be perfect. A lot of people just call them a campfire chair even. But you've got a lot of flexibility and, you know, wiggle rooms and having mistakes and things of that nature. So it makes it kind of fun and easy if you do mess up. And that's why we just use those to trace so that we had a general idea to where to cut.
Oh, just flip it on this axis.
I don't know, not walk around the table with it. But you do you, honey.
Round, baby, right round, I can make it finger right round, right round.
I don't think you want that face on the internet.
What?
I don't think you want that face on the internet.
Yes. So let's see the magic way that you turn around. It's the same thing I did.
Honey, you walked a lap around the yard. Like, did you notice my feet didn't even move when I did that?
Test subject number 1.
Wow, just throw the nice furniture on the ground.
It's a fit.
That's out of frame.
Hmm?
That one's out of frame. Oh, this one does not fit, I don't think. Oh, no,
Nope.
it is.
It does fit. Look out, IKEA, we're coming for you.
No. No, IKEA keep doing great things.
Ooh, this one's a little tight.
Alright, well that one's a little loose. Take yours out.
A lid for every pot. Well, would you look at that?
Oh, no.
No, that was just tight in general. We'll call it.
Alright, so now that everything's been cut and we know it all fits together, we are going to use the sander here to start with an 80 grit because I'm going to kind of knock down these curves because I did such a terrible job with the jigsaw making those curves. I'll start with 80 and then we're going to just do a quick once over with everything with a 120 grit because it is just outside wood, and then we'll get them stained and sealed. And as I'm sanding, I'm not too worried about the edges right now because I am still going to come through here with the router It's a 1/4 inch round over bit. So I'm going to round out all of these edges because again, this is going to be on the back side of your thigh and we don't want it to be too sharp. All right, and we're going to repeat the process with the backs. This is the top side where we've also curved the edges. And I'm also focusing quite a bit on this end grain here because again, on the seats, it's where your thigh sits, but here is where it's going to be exposed. So just trying to really smooth that out just to make it look a little prettier. All right, so now that all the corners have been sanded down, before I go through with the 120 grit, I'm gonna go through with a 1/4 inch round over bit on the router here to go basically around the edge, and then on this, because it's the back, I'm gonna go down all the sides, but on the seats, I'm only gonna trace the seat area itself because our slots are relatively square. I don't wanna mess with that junction there so it's nice and snug still. All right, so now that the backs are done, what we're gonna do for the seat is I'm gonna leave this whole tongue here square because again, the hole that we've made in the back rest portion of this is square, so that's what's gonna give it a nice snug fit. I'm just gonna round off the edges that could possibly touch your thigh. All right, so with the 1/4 inch round over bit, you can see that the edges are just a lot smoother. They're a lot more kind of rounded and soft compared to like just the standard cut edge that we see here. So it's just gonna be a lot nicer on the back of your thigh and it'll look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for the back rests. All right, so now that we are done routering the edges, we are gonna do sanding. And there's gonna be a whole lot of sanding, but it's gonna be a pretty quick, rough sand. To be honest, again, these are outdoor furniture, so I'm not really worried about them being perfect, but I am gonna use a 120 grit and just kind of do a once over on both surfaces, as well as any cut edges that I've done, and kind of soften up the router bit. And when sanding, I really did just focus on any raised areas or high areas of the grain, something that might get snagged on your skin or clothing, as well as focused on things like the knots and the leftover pencil marks, and of course the ink marks from manufacturing. The sanding wasn't perfect on it, it was just to really get it kind of smoothed down or kind of soften those edges. All right, guys, so now that they are sanded down, everything's smoothed over, we've wiped them down to get some of the sawdust off. We're gonna finish these guys with the Minwax wood finish. This is gonna be the dark walnut. We all know that we've got a lot of dark wood around here, so we're gonna continue that to the exterior. And then I've kind of cheating here. I'm gonna try this spray. It's also the Minwax. It's a spar urethane. It's supposed to be a lot better for the exterior. I didn't want to use a standard poly because sometimes it can really yellow in our Texas sun, and we really wanted to avoid that with these. So we're gonna use the dark walnut with the spar urethane, see how it works. All right, guys, so that's it for the Viking chair or campfire chair or stargazing chair build. It's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Again, we did it in a more modern way by using power tools to make all our cuts, but it wasn't too bad for about 25 bucks a chair.
If you like this project and want to see more, make sure you check out the other videos on our YouTube channel. You should also like, comment, and subscribe to let us know what you think about the video. Hit that little bell icon to be notified when we post our next video, and check out our other social media accounts on Instagram and TikTok at Rodney and Jake. We also have merch as well as go into more detail about our projects on our website, rodneyandjake.com.
And as always, we want to say thank you guys for following along and a big shout out to all of our members. We'll see you guys next time.
Later. Well, this is nice.
Isn't this lovely? Go inside, buddy.
Sure. It's hot.